Come on, go. There it goes. All right. So that everyone's probably wondering, is this the In the Vapor show or is this the Wednesday Night Live show? And to be quite honest, folks, hey, well, welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live show. We're starting the show sans John. We think that he is somewhere off in La La Land at this moment. As everyone knows, he has kind of a crazy work schedule and he tends to work overnight and then he pulls double duty during the day. So you may have been wondering oh, why, Tim? Was the In the Vapor intro playing at the beginning of the show. And that's because John left me on an island for this one, kids. So I went into the background, into the branding, and I could not find the beginning of the show, the Wednesday Night Live show. So you got the In the Vapor beginning, but it served its purpose. So that's wonderful. So here we are on a beautiful, wonderful Wednesday. Let's just say hello to everybody who's here on the panel. We got the wonderful Michelle Elliott with us, our newest host of the show. And then we have our fantastic repeat guest. He's become one of the family, Mr. Matthew Salter. Thank you for being here with us on the show. We're on our maiden voyage. I don't think I've hosted too many shows. I think maybe one in the past, and John might have given me a script. So this one we're going completely off script, but I promise. Yeah, exactly. I promise you, I have no teleprompter. So, if something falls out of my mouth incorrectly, I apologize. But anyway, so let's just go around the horn and let's just see how everybody's week has been thus far. Actually, we've been offline for a couple weeks, so people have missed us for a little while. Michelle, how have you been, and how is your week going?
It's been great. It's been great. No big deals, and kind of done some extra things that I've needed to catch up on. So I haven't been on Twitter a lot, but that's been okay too.
Exactly. Yes, there's
It's
a
kind
little
of
bit of
nice to step
respite.
away. Yeah,
Yeah, need a vacation from that place every once in a while.
every
I
now and
I
then.
Yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from just because I
Yeah,
get on there half the time and I'm like, where's all the vaping stuff anymore? It's like it's all buried in between the 9,999 political posts that are going on right now. So
I
yeah,
know.
you gotta get through the weeds. So that's good. And Mr. Matthew Salter, how has your week been, fine sir?
Oh, it has been a fantastic week on all the fronts. The home front, the work front. Can't complain about anything.
Good.
That's what I like to hear. I try not to complain. I always like to think. I guess my way of looking at life is that whatever I've got going on in my life, surely somewhere has it way worse than I do. So all the little menial, tiddly little stress points that happen on a regular day, I try to put all that behind me and just realize that at least I'm still here, right? So that's all good and fine and dandy. And then we'll cut to the chase here. I don't even have the music. I don't have Timmy's music to say welcome back to the show. So we'll try to get into this. We'll go from top down. Anyway, so hey everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live show. Just pretend you saw a video of a guy delivering newspapers and Tom Hanks and all that good stuff. So let's see who we got here in the chat. We got the wonderful Miss Mallory Gates. How are you, my dear? Great to see you here back on the show. Always great to see you. We got the wonderful Rolling R, Mr. Rifleman. Good to see you, Mr. Rifleman. How have you been? I know we all practice our rolling R's. Unless we have to. It's hard when you go out with friends sometimes and they don't roll their R's when they say burrito or any of those words that they're justified with a rolling R. Who else we got in here? We got the wonderful James, the resident pirate R in the house. Good to see you, James. How have you been, sir? Good to see you here. Let's see who else we got down there. I saw some other names as we got Chris Earl in the house. Good to see you, Chris. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show. Great to see you here viewing with us tonight. Who else we got in here? We got there's a lot of James R's. There's a lot of James R's, a lot of Riflemans, a lot of Mallory's. We got Matthew Salter on the show. Oh, wait. Well, there you are, Matthew. Matthew's off chatting with the group. We got the great and always iconic Curtis Clemens in the house. Great to see you, Curtis. I hope you're doing well, sir. Always good to see you. And one of my favorite user screen names of all time, Microwave Oven in the house, everyone. Microwave Oven. And I'm sorry, I apologize in advance for leaving you on 1 second eternally for like 2 days. And I look up and I'm like, what's the time? Oh, wait, it's not 1 second. I left you on 1 second. So good to see you there, Mr. Microwave Oven. How are you? Good to see you. And we got Anthony Hart. Hello, Anthony Hart. Anthony said hello, everyone. Everyone say hello to Anthony. How are you, Anthony? Good, sir. It's good to see you here on the show. Oh, no. We got Jason, Community Notes Vapes on the show. Good to see you, Jason. How are you, brother? Always wonderful to see you here on the show. We got Don Shirako Ayako here on the show. Love saying that one. That's fun. That's I feel like we should be in Monaco or something, watching the Grand Prix or something like that. Good to see you, Don. How are you, brother? And that's it. So we got 13 watching. I'd have to say this past week has actually been sort of a breath of fresh air, shall we say. I mean, obviously there's a lot more to it. But when you consider 2016 forward, I think we've all just sort of sat there and shook our heads for a lot of years, a lot of months, a lot of days, just sort of in bewilderment, trying to kind of grasp exactly what the big effing deal is, why we're at the point that we're at. But when we talk about the reversal of the Chevron case, I think that was probably one of the more monumental pieces of potentially great news that has fallen into I wouldn't say fallen into our laps, but it does sort of feel like somebody was looking down upon us and said, hey, maybe it's time you guys get a little bit of a break. So Matthew stays rather tapped into this stuff quite readily. He admitted before the show that he's been talking about this now for a week straight, waking up in cold sweats, causing his wife to go watch TV in the other room. And we know how that goes. But sometimes good news is worth talking about. So when we consider everything, let's just look at this from the top down. This doesn't just inherently impact vaping. This I see a lot of people talking about this right now, especially out on the social media lines. And then you have your typical arguments, right? There's a lot of people that think that this ruling was a favorable court, maybe kind of leaning one direction or another, and they're a little bit out of their minds, and see this as a big issue. And those might be the people that are looking at life from the lens that agency and more government control makes more sense to them. And then you're going to have the other side of the fence where you're going to, have people say, well, less government is better. I don't know that this necessarily admonishes government in the general sense, but overall, what it does is being if the standard is ambiguous or the rule or law is ambiguous, that it has to then go back to the Congress. It has to go back to the government to weigh out exactly what the ruling should be in these particular cases. But I think it means a lot to a lot of people in the sense that we won't have these somewhat monopolized agencies within the government kind of making a lot of these frivolous goalpost shifting rulings and decisions that ultimately affect all of our lives in a lot of different ways. Vaping just being one part of it. So let's, now that we kind of have sort of the basics of what this means, and I guess you could, draw your own opinions from this on how you feel about this. I think there's a lot of happy people in the chat right now. But Matthew, from your perspective, given the decision from the Supreme Court, tell us how you feel. Like, how do you see this?
I mean, you were talking about it possibly like falling into our lap. This junction in history, we could not have gotten any luckier to be in the position that we're in, beaten down like a dog in the dirt. But to have that case overturned the same exact time as our cases are sitting to be decided if they're going to be heard in front of the Supreme Court, And honest to God, all the greatness, we are thankful to the herring fishermen who did this. It was
Yes.
herring fishermen that got this overturned. Something that's been in effect since 1984. I mean, you're talking 4 decades of this being a thing where the courts could just, it didn't matter if they felt a particular way about a situation. They always had to just say, you know what, go back to the government agency who made the ruling. Here's our opinion about it, whether they agree with it or not. They're the experts. So we're going to listen to them, and you have to listen to them. And it initially, I think, back in 1984, it kind of made a little bit of sense, right? At that time, we really did have experts in government agencies, but as we know about our government these days, everything's been perverted to a certain degree, where if it doesn't bring them money or power or notoriety, they're not doing it. They're not doing anything for the greater good unless it gives, lines their pockets. So the simple fact that we've been denied before the Supreme Court. We've been asking them for almost 3-4 years now to hear a case, and each and every time they're like, nope, nope, nope. And I think the biggest part of this is the lawyers involved timed it just perfectly right. They actually built the entirety of this vapor case off that Chevron doctrine being overturned. So it was a long. I mean, it was a Hail Mary, the biggest Hail Mary that we could have ever played. And it just so happened that, guess what? Supreme Court decided, you know what? Yeah, we need to get rid of that once and for all.
Right.
And, it kind of seemed like things were going to go our way. That they were supposed to announce the case on Friday. They didn't. They were supposed to announce it on Monday. They didn't. But on Friday, they overturned Chevron, and we're like, wait a second. Like, that's monumental in history as it is. But that also probably means we're getting our day. And lo and behold, we're getting our day in court, again, the biggest court in the United States. And right now, when it's stacked with conservatives who love small business, who love free enterprise, I mean, we couldn't have gotten slotted into a better time period of history for us to finally be able to just exist as vapors.
Right.
The people who can do something about it now have the ball in their hands. And I really think we're going to make out good.
Do you think that, given all that you said, do you think that it's possible that they held our case out because they knew what they were going to do and that it
100%.
would help us?
100%.
Okay.
That is absolutely what happened. And I think, honestly, on both sides, I think it kind of helped both sides. I think we helped the herring fishermen too, because I think they saw what we were going through. We had a massive circuit court split, 3 cases against us, 1 case for us, but the 1 case that was for us was huge. The Fifth Circuit, where we had that win, is typically very conservative, very pro small business, very pro just freedom in general. And it was kind of the perfect storm, if you will, for the Supreme Court to say, okay, you know what? Now there's enough attention on this. There's enough of a reason for us to devote our time to this. And you predicated the whole case on this being overturned, and we're already talking about doing that?
Yeah.
And I mean, when you think about that, we're going to be the litmus test for a post-Chevron world. Now the judges and the courts can go after a government agency and tell them what to do and not have to defer back to them and have their power stripped. The power ultimately goes back to the people now.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be the guinea pigs. And the FDA, unfortunately, is going to be the sacrificial lamb on that side.
Well, right. I mean, go ahead. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to say, I think just from the outside, looking in, I mean, you kind of had to feel like the levee had to break at some point on this, because it just seems like the more we trudge forward with things, everyone is just getting it's that whole theory about, where does it stop? If you start with one particular thing and then you start, stripping that freedom away from people, then the lines just get blurred the deeper you go down the rabbit hole. And again, I think as genuine, honest people in this world, we sit back, and we like to believe that people have our best interest in the leadership of our country. But when you turn it over, like you said, to these particular agencies who are banking on people's money rolling in. And it's not, what influence does the vaping industry truly have when it comes to federal agencies? We really, I mean, the money's been there to get us through the PMTA process. The money has somehow magically found its way, in front of the lawyers to help us fight some of these, crazy frivolous cases. I think what my question would be to Matthew from an opinion perspective is if in fact the courts can now kind of drive these federal agencies down the path of how they should handle these particular things or what rulings they need to take into consideration. How do you think that this ultimately affects the states? Because I feel like we're kind of, yes, this is a big thing from a federal perspective, but I feel like we're also being inherently attacked heavily at the state level. And I'm just hoping that there's some balance here.
There absolutely is some balance. I've actually gotten that question a lot this week, especially from people in New York where there's a flavor ban or other flavor ban states that, they would be like, how is this going to affect me if it works out positively for us? Now, and take New York, for instance, they have a flavor ban, but they put a little caveat in their language, the law language, that stated if the product is approved by the FDA, then it will be legal within the state for sale.
Sure.
Well, if the FDA's everything gets overturned and PMTAs start getting approved because either the process was rewritten and we'll talk about this in a minute, all the MDOs have been abdicated and everything's back out on the market, guess what? New York's good to go. Start selling your wares again. Now, when you look at municipalities within California, like Oakland, who has a municipality flavor ban, if they don't have that language in there, it's not really going to do a whole lot for them. But it makes a very strong case for somebody to go back to that municipality and say, hey, look, obviously you've seen what's happened, or here is what's happened. Please strongly reconsider this ban. You're losing out on tax revenue. And guess what? Now it's legal,
Right.
And if it's legal and they can make tax money off it, it just may change their mind.
That I could certainly see that being the case. I mean, how it would seem sort of counterintuitive if they decide that they want to continue forward with flavor bans in the face of the fact that the products that they're effectively banning are legalized products. Correct.
I'm sorry. Say that one more time. I got sidetracked with a comment in the chat.
And that's fine.
It caught my eye, and I'm like thinking about the answer to this question.
Which question you talking about in the chat for here?
For YouTube, Peggy at E6 Source, she goes, "How far back will it roll?"
Okay,
and that was something I did want to get into because that's the other most pressing question I've been asked.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what could this possibly mean for the vapor industry? And it can mean quite a few things, or it can mean nothing. Actually, 100%. The Supreme Court could say, you know what? The FDA acted well within its rights. They said you had to provide this and you didn't. They're not going to because of the way the Fifth Circuit Court ruled, but they could do that. I would put that there's like a 5% chance that could even happen. They could completely get rid of the deeming regulations. They could tell the FDA, go back to 2016, start from scratch. Everything that was MDO'd or taken off the market is back on the market. You're going to abdicate all of those MDOs, and you are going to write an actual black and white policy. You're going to give them manufacturing standards up front. You're going to give them labeling standards up front. Instead of, we're going to tell you to do this application, but then 2 months later, we're going to hand you labeling requirements. And then 2 years later, we're going to hand you, we're thinking about manufacturing requirements. The FDA did everything so ass backwards. At the very least, what I think we're going to see is one of the parts of the case is that the FDA had said to us, we are going to put a heavy emphasis on the marketing plan. Oh, it's Mr. Sleepyhead.
I looked at my alarm and I set it for 1:30. I slept right through it. And
nice.
Looked over.
I tried to be your backup alarm there, sir. I called your phone like 6 times in a row.
Hey, John.
Good to see you, John.
Man.
Anyway,
I made it.
You made it. So just to catch you up, so we're letting Matthew fill us in on his opinions and impressions of where we go now that the Chevron case has been overturned.
Yeah, so at the very least, I think what we're going to see is, a big part of the case was the FDA said in the very initially to, all the companies and everything, a marketing plan is going to be vital. We are going to go on a deep dive through your marketing plan because that's how you're going to tell us how you're going to keep your products out of the hands of youth.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did the surprise switcheroo, which is my favorite. I mean, literal thing said within that Fifth Circuit trial. It's in the hard copy, the surprise switcheroo, where they told us we needed a longitudinal cohort study, which for those who don't know is roughly $1.5 to $2 million study that takes place over a year. That has to take place across the country with a bunch of different control groups and then variable groups, and it's ridiculous. I have done one. I never want to do another one again in my lifetime. It was a pain in the ass, and I wasn't even the one who facilitated it. It was for a client. And so they could say, you know what, go back, abdicate the MDOs, but this time you have to look at those marketing plans. And I mean, in that Fifth Circuit case, the FDA admitted we didn't read any of the applications if they didn't have that specific study.
Yep.
Well, now not only do you have to do the 20 million applications you received during the synthetic nicotine PMTA process, but now you got to review the 100 million applications you got from the original process. And when the FDA is stretched so thin as it is between the 50 vapor product lawsuits, the fact that they can't keep baby formula safe for babies to drink, the fact that they're inept at anything drug related, they're going to fold and crumble. And then you add an election year on top of that. And if a certain someone gets in office, they're probably all getting shit canned anyways.
Yeah.
Like it's the worst time to be the FDA. It really is. I
it is.
guarantee they spent last weekend just shitting their pants over and over and over again, having heart attacks, wishing weed was legal so they could deal with the stress.
They want to smoke it. Let me ask you, because this is something I have seen someone post on X, but this could also reverse their decision on being able at all to classify it as a tobacco product.
I saw that too, and that really got the wheels turning. And funny enough, I have this little ritual I do. I'm at my office now when I'm working, I have this little ritual I do that if something jumps out in my head and really gets those wheels turning, I have to just kind of stop all work. I lean back in my chair, I close my eyes, and I just really focus on that. I saw it earlier where somebody said it could potentially go back to 2006 and 7 and force them to completely relook at the TCA, the Tobacco Control Act.
Yep.
And I just sat back and I thought, if we rolled back to that,
changes everything.
It more than changes everything. We didn't exist. We did, but we didn't. We weren't a commercial entity at all back in 2006 7. We were, Han Lick was fucking finishing up the prototype back in 2006 2007. And it's like, just imagining what that would be like to have the TCA scrapped, not just the deeming rank scrapped. I'm like, I mean, either way, everybody wins. Big Tobacco wins. We win. All the up and coming tobacco products win.
That's what they want, though. I think they want everybody to actually win at this. They want to save the lives. They want to look good. They want to save face. They want the taxes. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, because I ultimately think Big Tobacco may jump on our side now, because if this means that they can get flavored cigarettes back,
right?
Wouldn't that be massive for them? And then on top of that, if they go back, they roll the deeming, even just rolling the deeming regs back, or rewrite the TCA, they can include vapor products into user fees, which is something they've been talking about doing for years, but really didn't have a whole lot of way to implement it. And now, I don't know if you guys know anything about user fees, but that's supposedly how the FDA is funded.
Right.
All the tobacco companies pay these fees. That goes to the FDA. That's how they operate. But it's based upon a percentage of how much your company makes. So in our terms, Juul, we'll say 3 years ago, Juul would be paying 99% of all the user fees for the industry. And you take somebody like Boosted, who unfortunately was just railroaded by the DOJ and FDA, he'd be paying less than 0.01% if he was allowed to exist. So there's a lot of variables going on. And when I tell you that the Chevron deference being overturned doesn't even just affect us, we are 1% of what that deference being overturned affects. And there are some wild shit that can happen now in the course of our country because of that being gone.
Yeah.
It's going to make Congress very busy.
They're going to have to learn how to do their jobs.
Oh my goodness.
Or my favorite thing, somebody goes, well, I guess the aides better get reading those packets of laws they always, have to do.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
congressmen don't actually read those. Their aides do. And then even then they scan for the footnotes.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
they're
scary
actually
because
they're
they're
actually
young.
gonna have to show up to the office now and not be somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, they won't be able to do the whole, song and dance out in front of crowds anymore. They're going to have to learn to read and write. And
Well, if it rolls all the way back to like where it gets reversed that this is no longer a tobacco product, how's that affect all those PMTAs?
they go away. They don't exist.
They
It
just
doesn't
go
matter
away.
anymore.
Well, we want a refund. What on that? What
Well,
on
now
that?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. The money was never paid to the FDA. The money was paid to
good.
people like me who spent, 18
Oh yeah,
hours
no,
a
you
day.
keep it. You keep it, Matthew. Never mind, everybody out there. Forget my train of thought right there.
No, don't worry. I put a non-refundable clause in every contract
There
I
you go.
make. So
Smart
There you
man.
no, that's the thing, though. I mean, think
There's
about
so-
it. The person I know who spent the most, they spent like $12 million on their application. They went full bore, balls out. They did everything the absolute correct way, and I'm sure there's people who spent just as much that I don't know about.
Yeah.
Even if that they lost all that money, but they're allowed to market, the second this gets overturned by the FDA and we're allowed back on the market, we will be experiencing a 2016 renaissance. It will be the glory days of vaping again. The community will come back almost instantly. You will have 100 fucking vape shows across the country, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Should I
What-
get my bags packed?
Well, so my question, right? So I mean, leading up to all of this, it's it was like, dare I say, like a zombie army, but it's, everyone was energized. Everyone, there were a lot of people that were still in the dark or ignorant to what was going on, just didn't never really think anything would come of it. And maybe they are some of the shell shocked ones at this point. But I feel like just us as a tighter community, we saw numbers dwindle over time. And what I mean by that is, people were advocating in droves, petitions were being signed, phone calls were being made. Everyone seemed very vigorous. And then as it got tougher and tougher, and it just seemed like no matter what they did, nothing kind of went our way. And so they kind of fell away. So if all these suppositions happen and it goes back that far and PMTAs go away and all that, do you think that reinstills with people to just don't worry about it, no matter what happens, it'll probably just go away? Or do you think that it will cause people to wake up a little bit and be like, okay, just because all this shit happens, yes, we're getting vaping back to a degree, we can't stay quiet, you know what I mean? I feel like they would try to come after us again.
I think they will and they won't. The FDA really put themselves in a corner, a very, very hard, sharp corner. They've never been able to outright ban us because of the way the free market's set up and the way the TCA was set up. They can't just outright ban us. They could never outright ban flavors either. That's why it hasn't been done. If they could, they would have years ago.
Right.
And then I still have the screenshot. They literally only expected between 25 to 55 PMTA applications on behalf of the vapor companies. They've got 10 million the first go around for over 100 million products.
Yep.
I remember talking to an FDA representative. I used to have some pretty close friends in the FDA. And I said, what's it like getting all these applications? And they go, we have a singular room that we all used to work in, and we now have to work from home because from floor to ceiling is hard copy media PMTA. That's not including the digital PMTAs that were sent in. From floor to ceiling, it was USB drives, CDs, printed paper. Somebody actually backed a tractor trailer up. They had printed their PMTA on printer paper.
Yes.
I threatened to do it with dot matrix paper just to be a dick, but
Oh yeah, pin feed. God,
Oh, shit.
I could just hear the sound in my head. It'd probably print for 2 years.
oh my goodness.
No, I think it's
remember
going
those
to
days.
wake people up. I mean, honest to God, a scary thought. You guys remember the rally at the White House, right?
Oh yeah.
I was fortunate to be a part of that team. I was the treasurer for the whole effort. I even started an intergovernmental war in Washington, D.C. for that rally. And I'm the only one out of that team that's still a part of vaping. Everybody else is
Really?
gone. They've moved on. They're done.
They
They
move
can't.
on, yeah.
They were beaten down so badly that they were just like, what's the point? And I'm the only one clinging. And I'll tell you guys, I usually do my work and hang out with my kids and do my little farm action, and I haven't been getting involved in advocacy. I'm beaten down. I'm tired
Yeah.
of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? The second I still follow it, obviously, because it's my job. But the second that Chevron deference overturned, I was screaming in every room of my house. My kids were fucking scared, trying to figure out why. Dad was flipping out.
Yeah.
I'm calling everybody I know. It happened. It's happening. We're gonna get this back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I literally have just had a smile on my face since last Friday. Like, and then they announced that they're actually taking the case.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was big. Oh, by the way, thanks for that, because it also stopped you from posting goddamn food, which made me so friggin' hungry. You son
That's
of a
not
bitch.
true. I celebrated with some fat ass ribeyes last night.
Yeah,
just
I
because
saw
of
that,
it.
which didn't help either, because I had to stop on the way home from work to buy steak, because I was like, saw your post. I was like, I want a steak tonight.
Like, I'm just like, and I tell you what, on my personal perspective, my business load has tripled in the last 48 hours. There's so much confidence coming back to the industry, not only to vapors themselves, but to the companies. Excuse me, to people want to be compliant. They want to do things the right way. And I think that's even going to be the bigger aspect of all this. We're not going to run into this with the clouds bro clouds anymore. We're going to run into this with the companies who have survived the worst parts, the worst times, and now they understand they have to put their money into compliance. They have to put their money into doing things the right way, doing the right studies, ensuring their products are truthfully a safer alternative versus spending $10 million a year on marketing budgets and midget strippers in Miami and everything.
Yeah, well, that was going to be one of my next questions. So I just help me to understand: is it just really about the money? But we even had another little blip of excitement. Granted, we probably aren't products that we would invest in the general sense, but they finally gave some MGOs to some menthol products that got in, which was unheard of up until this point. It was only tobacco stuff, and as we all know, it was devices that most of us would not gravitate to. If it was the last thing remaining, maybe we would break down and take it anyway. But my question was, what made that menthol MGO different from all of the other menthol MGOs? I mean, what is that some form of a predicate?
So it's probably going to change, to be honest with you now. So you'll see a lot of companies like Enjoy, who was once part of our side. They were a part of our team. They were a homegrown mom and pop who grew into a giant, to big tobacco sized giant, who was eventually absorbed by big tobacco. But they're putting Bluetooth technology into the vape devices and age gating technology. So it has to be linked to your phone. You have to prove you are over the age of 21 through facial recognition, through phone recognition, and Bluetooth, and the device will not operate.
Yeah.
Now, on that promise, that's how that was granted. And Juul, when they just filed a few new applications in the last few months, that technology exists. They were actually the first one to come out. They wanted to do this whole geofencing thing where if you get within 500 feet of a school or a hospital, the vape shuts down. It won't work. And it's wild to think about how much control they have over the technology in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
But so it was like, okay, well, if that's what it's going to take, easy with a disposable, easy with a pod system, not so easy with open source products.
Yeah.
Well, China figure it out, probably. I mean, it's all coming from China anyways, but
with all this also, something we're not really been talking about, but the hardware, this changes everything for hardware as well. I mean, this opens the doors. I mean, thank God for maybe some innovation that we have been lacking for the last 5 years. It comes out of the woodworks. Like, hey, China comes out. Hey, look, we've had this for 5 years, but we were afraid to put it out there. So I think that's a big deal too, because I think if it's possible to go all the way back and say, hey, man, this isn't a tobacco product, that changes everything, not just in the e-liquid manufacturers, but as far as the hardware that we're going to be able to start getting and seeing on the market.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's take the election for, if Trump wins, and I just say this loosely, when he was last president, he floated the idea of taking tobacco away from the FDA and making the CTP its own agency within the government to only handle tobacco. And he wanted to take tobacco away from the ATF as well, even though the ATF handles kind of a different aspect of tobacco, but they don't really give a shit about that aspect of tobacco, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, a bunch of terrorist groups were selling on-tax cigarettes across the United States to fund terrorist activities. That's why we're in the PACT Act.
Yeah.
Wildest thing. Yeah, they're selling e-liquid to fund terrorist activities, right?
Yeah.
But,
Well, yeah, I got to sit down with the guy. Was at a wine tasting, and I believe it or not, he was an ATF agent from LA, and he said he laughed when I brought up vaping. He goes, "That's the least of our problems, is vaping." He goes, and the product that blew me away was counterfeited energy drinks. He says, "John, you cannot imagine how much counterfeit energy drinks are out there." And he told me they just a couple of weeks before this party, he said they had one of the biggest busts in LA. Not Rockstar, but the one with the Red Bull on it. Red Bull.
Yep.
He said they had a warehouse just full of counterfeited Red Bull, and I'm like, holy crap. I said, now I gotta check my Red Bull if it's freaking it's real or fake.
Imagine a Red Bull having an authenticity code on the back.
scan your Red Bull before you drink it. Oh yeah, no, this is exciting times for this industry, and I can see not just on Twitter but on Facebook the excitement, and hopefully it brings back some of these other brands. Does it bring it back to the wild west? I hope not, because
it would.
It would. And again, everyone out there, I know everyone has. I know Mallory's a DIYer, and there's some DIYers out there, and there was a lot of people buying DIY off of Facebook, and and finding out down the road, hey, this person was making it in their bathtub, and blah 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 blah. But I think if this were to go roll back, to me, I think people need to take that into consideration and stick with the manufacturers that have been fighting to get through this. You know what I mean? And not just start buying e-liquid off of Facebook and Instagram and going back to those days where,
I don't think we'll go back to bathtub mixing days. I don't think we'll go back to shitty labeled days.
Yeah.
The FDA really has a golden opportunity right now. If they want to lessen the blow to themselves, if I was them, I would be working right this second with the thought process of what happens if we lose in court. What happens if the Supreme Court rules in favor of vapors? And we look at every single scenario that we may come across, TCA, start there. If the TCA gets repealed, what do we do? How do we address that? Okay, well, if the deeming regs get, start putting out, have a manufacturing standard ready to put out the day if that happens. Start having label requirements ready to be put out that day if it happens. Be prepared for every scenario. But it's the FDA. They're constantly behind us by 4 or 5 product cycles. They're still bitching about Nautilus tanks.
Yeah, I know.
Come on. Now, granted, Nautilus tanks still awesome. They still exist. You can still buy them brand new. But that was 8 years ago.
Yeah, 8 years ago. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I find a bit ironic in all of this too, is the fact that I mean, go ahead, yes, please put out some kind of a clear, defined product standard. But am I wrong to think that the same place that the big tobacco device and liquid manufacturers get their stuff from is the same exact place where the independent industry is getting their stuff from? Is there anything that makes what those companies are working with from a byproduct standpoint different from, say, Jam Monster or any of them, Naked?
Well,
anybody.
If you're making it for your own personal use, you shouldn't have a care in the world, realistically, right? It's the second you want to enter the commercial market that you should give a shit. I mean, even changing, and I call them $1 billion clients who don't understand e-liquid is not just foreign ingredients. It's very easy to say that to get a point across, but realistically speaking, every percentage point matters when you're mixing e-liquid. And if you even, let's say, you put 0.25% strawberry in a strawberry custard vape, and the next batch you make, it's a 0.26, You just completely change the chemical molecular makeup of that e-liquid, and then
Right.
that can create new byproducts, and that can create different things. And then you have to take mixing conditions into effect. Rifleman just said, interesting that absolutely no bathtub juice for nicotine vaping ever caused any health problems, or a
No,
Doyle
no.
e-liquid kiddie pool.
Right.
Yes, it has caused health problems. Dr. Crimmies, the way I got into the vaping industry, Dr. fucking Crimmies, they literally had a toilet in the mixing room. And yes, people got sick from that. People had to go to the hospital because of that. Why? Fecal matter in your e-liquid and inhaling it into your lungs is never a good thing. Kind of
No,
like
it's
farting
not.
on a pillow and getting pink eye. You just don't do it.
Yeah, you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to go back to those days. I think we're at the point now where the people who are surviving,
Yeah.
they know we have to pay to play to a certain degree. We're going to have to do testing on e-liquid with the HPHC testing. And while, that's really expensive to do, I think that cost is also going to come down and maybe make it achievable for some smaller manufacturers.
Yeah.
Right.
We could have the flavor houses do their HPHC testing on all of their flavorings, and then be able to, through mathematics and science, create profiles, loosely based profiles, and get close to, when we take a look at a mixture, okay, well, if this is testing at this and this is testing at that, when we add this, this, and this is what this e-liquid should come out to. And maybe that's an acceptable format. Right now they give us plus or minus 10 milligrams on nicotine. Can you believe that? It could be a 0 nic, but it could actually be a 10 milligram. That's a big difference.
Yeah. Michelle, do you have a question, Michelle?
No, I was just saying, wow, I did not realize that the nick could be that much different.
Oh, yeah. They tested a bunch that were supposed to be 0 milligram, and some of them were coming up 20, 30 milligram. And this was like open source e-liquid for sub-ohm use. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, like, what are you guys doing? It's not that hard to measure nicotine.
Yeah. No.
So I have a question. Do you think, from the outside looking in, the vapor industry learned any valuable lessons?
I hope so.
Should this go so far as to be rolled back that far and the floodgates open again? Do you think the major players are any wiser for the wear? Do you think the industry, the consumers are any wiser for the wear? And that we can't. And I'm not trying to take the fun out of everything. Yeah, I think the mud bogger tires and on the beach, with all the fancy kind of frills and stuff is relevant. But I'm just saying, we can't. It doesn't seem like it doesn't benefit us to go back to the vape hoodie. It doesn't benefit us to go back to disposables that look like hand grenades. It doesn't benefit us to start loading up vape shops and having cloud comps again. Do you think?
I would disagree with the cloud comp thing.
Yeah, damn it. I get all my big gear out again, dude.
And the only reason why I say I disagree is the community aspect was so very important at converting smokers and still remains so this day.
Yeah.
I mean, an 85-year-old
Tim's just a hater because he doesn't. Tim's a hater because he doesn't have the lung capacity to be in one of those.
Well, that might be true. That part might be true.
As we get older, it gets harder. I can't push a 10-foot cloud anymore.
And I still struggle a little bit with sometimes installing coils. So I've never quite perfected it. But I guess my point is that do you think the vapor industry that will self-police a little bit more internally within the community and will be like, hey, let's maybe not get so bombastic this time around. Let's pitch it for what we're telling people what it's for. And that is to get people off of cigarettes and not make it about how crazy can we get with a stack mod that's 25 tubes long with 14 816 18 650s inside of it. While I think that stuff is cool, I think it's interesting. It's not my bag. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm happy with the things that I've bought and the path that I've taken. But I would just hope that we're a little bit more measured moving forward. Yes,
I think we absolutely are. 95% of this industry, where it's at now, they see the writing on the wall that had they maybe not have done a few of those things, like put cartoons on labels or had midget strippers in Miami,
Damn it.
we may have been looked a little more favorably on. We have shifted from, granted, our roots will always be a bunch of, and Greg Troutman put it the best way, a ragtag group of people, or what I say, felons and drug addicts built this industry.
Mhm.
We have morphed into more of a, and I hate it, but a corporate entity. We are suit and tie people to a degree now. Yes,
Mm.
exactly. We understand that it's going to take us actually doing testing, spending money where it needs to be spent, and being responsible to be able to put on the market, because it's a lot like cannabis did for 30, 40, 50 years,
Yeah.
fighting to become legalized. And now look at where they're at. We're going to have 5% of idiots come back, and they're
Yeah.
going to put dumb shit on a label like cannabis has now. But if you
Yeah.
look, every time somebody comes out with like a Fruity Pebble cannabis packaging, that entire industry smacks the living shit out of them. They
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
exist for much more than 3 to 5 months, and they're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
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 And I think we'll
Well,
have the same thing in the vapor industry.
yeah. Yeah, I think there's going to be a few that are going to try to be standouts and be seen, and I'm hoping that the same thing happens with those groups that come out that they're trying to get that little edge over the other manufacturer, and and the industry says, hey, we've been through this, let's not go through this again. You got a great product, you don't need to have some sort of cartoonish thing on the cover, on the label. But yeah, I feel like there's still going to be a few of those that are going to try to beat the system and try to get seen, and we had that in the beginning. Everybody was trying to do that little thing that made their product that much different than everyone else's, and so yeah, we'll have a couple of those, I'm
If
sure.
it gets too out of hand, I'll make a
Yeah.
few phone calls, get the band back together again,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll
yeah,
come steamroll a few companies like the old days.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I think the point that I'm trying to make is that when unique opportunities come around, it's not very often in many situations that you get potentially a full blown reset button.
Yeah.
Like we are looking at an opportunity to have a full reset, and we could take that opportunity to look back on the missteps. But I will say this much is that there's a whole lot of people that are excuse my French, a fuck ton smarter because of this first trip around the FDA sun. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I mean, a lot of people learned a lot of stuff, whereas we didn't know what we didn't know going back to 2016 and entering into this whole entire fray. It was
Yeah.
like you're just grabbing at straws and fighting with tooth and nail. But now there's a lot of wiser, smarter people because as a result of this.
I'm one of them.
Exactly.
I mean, when I
Yeah.
started vaping, I was running car rental agencies. I never went to college. I don't have a degree in a damn thing. And
Yeah.
now these billion-dollar companies are trusting me to file the most important
Yeah.
paperwork of their company's careers. And it's like,
Yeah.
I've educated myself all along the way. I ended up doing all this because I worked at a vape shop who happened to mix
Yep.
e-liquid. And the regs
Yep.
drop, and I'm like, I guess I'll figure this out.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, 7 years later, here I am talking to you fine people about all the wild shit in the Supreme Court for us. It's
Yeah.
I still look at my wife every once in a while and go, how the fuck did I get here? What am I
You
doing?
start looking around, it's like, wait a minute, man. I was at Enterprise just yesterday.
Yeah, literally.
Well,
No,
I hope that this also proves something to some people who may, in the framework of it all. And I'm not talking about people on our side, in our corner. I'm just saying I'm hoping that for the sake of argument on the federal side that people understand that we didn't go away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
We didn't
yeah.
just lay down in front of them and be like, okay, we'll just take it. We'll move on. We'll find our own version of the next adult Tide Pod. It was never a fad. It was never a trend. It was something that we
Yeah.
fully believed in and trusted in the science that we were reading. I'm not saying that it was fake or contrived. It was factual science, which was wholly ignored by the FDA. And so I hope that they it's a reckoning for them to understand that we didn't lay down.
Yeah.
Trust me, the FDA knows that all too well. There is a hearing with the acting director of the FDA, the previous one, and Congress, where he looked at them and said, there are over 50 active lawsuits from vapor companies. We thought they were going to go away. It's gotten worse. We don't have
Yeah.
the resources or the manpower
Yeah.
to continue anything right now. We need money desperately. And
Yeah.
Congress goes, what?
Yeah, they don't like that when you want money. Well, okay. Did you not find it funny that they couldn't even get the active FDA director or King to show up to even discuss a single thing of what just took place? They had to go all the way back to Gottlieb to bring him in to get his opinion. And when I saw that, I started laughing. I'm saying, are they this fucking scared that they can't even come out front with? And it was, I can't be the only one that was shocked that it even came up on the fucking news. You know what I mean? I was like, oh shit, it made the news. It made the news. And then who they
Gottlieb likes
get?
sticking his nose into everything he can.
Yeah,
and
he
I
does.
sit there and I'll scream
He's
at the
looking for a
screen.
job,
You had
Matthew.
a
He's
chance to do right by us. You had a chance to
Yes.
fix this. None of this would have happened if you would have had
Right.
a set in your pants.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they are scared shitless. I mean, you think we're giving it to them bad or the Supreme Court's giving it to them bad? Have you
Yeah.
seen how pissed off the ants are right now?
Oh,
Holy
God.
cow.
That was my next question. I was like, they're gonna have
Yolanda
to-
from Truth is fuming. Her brain is just on fire right now. She's so mad.
Yeah, well,
I
she's, you know,
can't wait to see
Jealous.
Pave's faces. I want to see Pave's
Yeah, really.
faces.
I haven't heard much from them lately on X.
No,
I
they're
don't
quiet.
know.
You know why they're quiet?
Yeah.
Because they suck and they lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been over this overhyped like for the last 4 days. It's just been
Yeah.
nonstop go time.
I'm sure they've been calling the shit out of the FDA to figure out what happened, but they're like, wait a minute, all our extravagant lunches are done? Is this what's going to happen? We're not going to have our, meat trays and our wine fisters. And yeah, no, I'm sure they're just trying to figure out how they're going to keep staying open. To be
Watch
honest,
in a few weeks. Jules going to get an approval in the next few weeks. They're going to get a PMTA through. Oh boy, that meltdown. We might see riots in the streets from that.
yeah. Well, I see
From
Mr. Labworks
from Pave.
there. Yeah.
Four
Moms
four
crossing
wrinkly
there at the market,
four
man.
wrinkly ladies just running down the street with picket signs. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
All
They're
the
gonna go-
Karens come out in droves.
Yeah, they're gonna
I'll
stand in
find
front of
a
a.
Yeah. I
stand in
see
front of the
Labworks
Supreme
out
Court
there,
Justice's
so
house.
I'm wondering, how's this? Let's the big question: how's this affect worldwide? Does this change the perspective of some of these other countries if the U.S. swings the other way on this?
It may certainly do so. I mean, it's going to have a massive ripple effect. I mean, the wild part is, you think about it, every little piece of this is going to have a massive ripple effect, not only on the United States, but the world itself. Chevron being overturned is going to change a lot of things. I mean, government agencies not having the power to have absolute power is going to change a lot of things. And yeah, I mean, we get a ton of people who the monkey see, monkey do. If the USA does something, 25 other countries do it too, because they want to be just like Big Brother. And we may see them relax. I can't wait for the day that the FDA has to come out and without
Apologize?
stuttering, yes, apologize, say vaping is healthier than smoking, and say we're going to move forward endorsing vaping as an approved or as a way to have it alternately enjoy nicotine. They won't call us a cessation product because we're not a drug.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't want to be a drug. Trust me, we don't want to be a drug. That's a much more expensive and long and daunting process that we'll never want to touch.
Right.
So,
right.
And
all right. So this made me think of another question. How does this change the landscape of policy legislation? So if we consider the fact that a president, in this particular case, Obama, effectively handed control of the tobacco industry exclusively over to the FDA, what does that mean for future presidents? I don't mean the next one, just the next one. I mean the one after that and the one after that. I mean, if these things come up, what path do they take?
I mean, let's say Trump gets back in office, decides vaping's free and open for everybody. He could issue an executive order saying just that. He could take the power away from the FDA or whoever has. He could say vaping's not tobacco. It's allowed to be on the market just like any other consumer good, and call it a day. More importantly, in regards to like Chevron and everything, Congress, if they have to issue black and white things now, it can no longer have that regulatory gray area. No longer you're going to have to get a lawyer just to read a piece of legislation to say this is what it may mean or we think it means. It's no longer an opinion piece. It's got to be a fact piece. They have to spell it out clear as day now with Chevron being gone because they can't hide behind it anymore. So when we do ultimately get that new set of regulations in place for vapor products, It's going to be crystal clear to us. You file this, you do that, you conduct this study, you get approved. Done. You know, we're
Right.
going to have a lower barrier of entry to market now because we're going to know exactly what we need to have.
Isn't that just a great feeling, just to know that this is what you have to do and nobody's going to move the goalpost? No one's going to say, oh, hey, guess what? Now the goalpost is outside of the stadium, so you have to find a way to get out there. No.
I mean, at the end of the day, they could stick to their guns. SCOTUS could rule in favor of the FDA. They absolutely could. And they could vacate the Fifth Circuit's whole thing, but they won't. And the reason why they won't is they're a conservative court right now. They have a lot of Trump-appointed judges who are very conservative, who actually, I think one of them vapes even. We have a lot of Congress people who vape. We have a lot of Congress people who do this. Did you see how many Congress people came out of the woodwork on Twitter the second Schumer opened his mouth about nicotine pouches or Zyn? Holy shit. That took me by surprise.
Yeah.
Even AOC. There's a couple pictures of AOC. She's got a little Zyn pouch in her pocket. And it's like,
Look at her.
you know what that is. That's not mints. That's Zyn. That's a little pouch.
It could be
Yeah,
Copenhagen.
exactly.
Copenhagen.
She talks like
I don't
a
know.
sailor.
I don't know if I see too many women chewing, but it happens.
Well, I mean, that's something that always bewildered me a little bit. You know, I mean, it kind of speaks volumes to the fact that, you know, when you look at politicians at face value, I mean, should I say that I'm shocked that many came out talking about and defending Zyn? That's the easier one to get out there and defend. I mean, I remember reading article after article about all these politicians that kept getting caught in rest stops on, you know, Route 95, you know, caught in bathrooms doing coke and all kinds of other stuff. So, I mean, their noses aren't necessarily squeaky clean behind closed doors. But, you know, I do hope that it does buck the system a little bit and politicians feel a little bit more comfortable coming out and maybe endorsing what they truthfully would have liked to have said the first time around, instead of just becoming establishment and just, you know, doing. But I guess the reason why I asked the question about path, I know, Matthew, you don't have a whole lot of time, but the question about the path was, do you think that this is going to put us in a position to have to hear different points of view when they go ahead and they have their sessions regarding these particular policies? Meaning, I guess you get what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, do you think people be a little bit more inclined to invite our side into the arguments and listen to other side of the story, instead of just hearing a myopic view of how horrific this thing called vaping is?
No, absolutely. And I mean, I know I have it on good authority that during the SCOTUS trial, it is being requested to have our side of the industry have a few minutes to be able to speak and address the court. And the second if we get a decision coming our way and it's positive, the second that happens, the court of public opinion is going to shift on vaping. It's going to shift on nicotine, more importantly. And, you know, we have started to already see a little bit of that shift in public policy, where they say nicotine's not what causes cancer. It's the carcinogens in smoking and cigarettes and snuff and all that. But if we win, they have to blatantly come out and tell people, you know, vaping is healthier than smoking. Nicotine doesn't cause cancer. And they're going to put it on their websites. They have to inform the public if it's scientifically proven and accurate.
Well, they have to prove too the 10 other things, you know, ED, the hair loss, what else?
Slime mouth.
Slime mouth. Yeah.
That kills me. 100 commercials a day on television for limp dick, but I can't even fucking tell.
I'm a vapor and I have a limp dick.
Don't say that. They'll come out with Viagra vape. I mean, we've already had melatonin and caffeine vapes. What's Viagra?
All right, let's get into this real quick, because this is something that if this all changes, it affects the way the post office ruling changes. I think a lot of things changes. What I'm kind of hoping doesn't happen is we don't have this price war where everything goes back to 2009 prices, where you know, an 18 mil bottle is going to be $22. You know, a 15 mil bottle is going to be $22, and at least go back to where we were at 2012, where you could get 120 ml bottle for right around $25-$30.
I think that's you'll see pricing stay the same. And another big aspect is we're going to see something done about disposables. I can almost guarantee you that. And the
Yeah.
second something goes with disposables, if they go away entirely or if they get regulated really hard, you're going to see the open source industry equalize a little bit. I mean, shops have to sell disposables now to keep the doors open. They have to sell hemp products to keep the doors open. Once vaping is no longer under the gun the way it has been, even a 10% shift from under the gun, they can breathe a little easier. Prices will equalize. Product innovation will start occurring again.
How
Oh, that's good.
How do you think that the Bloomberg is going to react if everything is done? And I know I don't want to put you on the spot,
No, you're
but
good.
you know, I mean, everybody is, you know, waiting for their paychecks from him. And if he's proven wrong, you know, then what do you feel like might happen?
I mean, we were talking about the companies who paid for a PMTA. If those go away, how they're going to feel spending $1 million here, $2 million there. Bloomberg, God, he's got to be up in the $40-50 million range that he's shelled out for this. And you know what? I hope they come after him with pitchforks and a
Me
fucking,
too.
pokey stick. Like, screw that
They
guy.
probably won't, right?
More than likely not. The rich stay rich, the wealthy stay wealthy, and they're
Yeah.
untouchable.
Well,
But
he
they'll
ends
find
up
something new.
focusing on some other countries. What he'll do. I mean, that's why I brought up the question of whether this affects a worldwide issue with all the other countries. But Bloomberg, as we all know, has got his little fingers in the WHO. He's involved in a lot of things when it comes to vaping that we all know about. I don't think that the common person knows. That's not in the vaping industry or knows anything about vaping, knows the kind of money that he's shelling out worldwide just to keep this product off the shelves.
I try and tell people.
Yeah.
This is the big evil man.
I have too, and it's funny because when I do bring it up to people that have no clue or cares, they don't understand why he's even putting that kind of money towards that product. It's just like, well, was he an ex-smoker? He has one story, right? His father, his uncle got cancer from, that's his
what
only
they don't
story.
tell you is that he has controlling interest in a company that's developing a vapor product for the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
So I say it every chance I get.
There's always ulterior motives, you know. It's like Gottlieb having controlling interest in those e-cig companies or the stores for a while.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Gottlieb. They brushed him off. They took all the dust off of him and said, hey, you know, come out. It just blew me away that no one from the FDA came up and said, it just could have said anything, you know, could have said, hey, there's no way that this early they're coming out and saying we made a mistake. That there's no way that I thought that was happening yet, but at least come out and address what just happened, you know, and kind of explain it, not just for themselves, but for Pave and everybody else that was sitting back going, what the fuck's happened? Why is Gottlieb there? Why is he there? Were you telling me King couldn't come out of his office for this? You know, especially that it ends up being a national news thing. So that too surprised me. I was like, oh shit, we made the national news. And it's
everywhere. Forbes,
it's positive.
You name it.
It's positive. It's not about some kid getting beat up by cops. It's not, you know, some stupid, you know, thing that happened in the industry. It wasn't a bust, you know, or anything like that. It was something positive. And what they do, they go get, you know, Gottlieb, brush him off here, put some makeup on him, and have him come out and then try to save face. I mean, basically everything he said in that little fucking 3 or 4 minute interview was about, you know, positive things about the FDA, you know, as go ahead, Michelle.
I'm sorry. But he was the last person that actually said anything good about us.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it. So, you know, I mean, maybe
he was always my favorite commissioner. I'll put that out there. He was always my favorite commissioner.
Yeah.
And the last thing I do have to head out, but the last thing, it's the one thing that I'm the most interested to see over the next few months, heading into the SCOTUS session like early this fall. I can't wait to see what happens between now and then. Are we going to see more MDOs? Are we going to see more DOJ action? Or like things like Boosted? What happened to Corey over at Boosted? You know, are we going to see any negative about vaping in the media? I personally think everything's going to be put on hold. I think it's going to be crickets from the FDA. We're going to have Truth yelling at the top of their lungs. They already are. Pave's going to implode. They already are. But I think the FDA, it's going to be crickets about vaping until after the election or Supreme Court starts the case.
You mean I can actually watch Hulu when not seeing a vape ad?
Oh, man, I love those ads. It's just like the old cigarette ads. Those ads would come on. I'd light a cigarette just because. It didn't matter if I had one in my hand already. You know what? I'm smoking 2 now. Just say fuck you.
Well, at least now they say maybe. If you notice the new, they've learned their lesson, and they say we can't say it's going to cause it. Maybe contains this formaldehyde.
I still haven't gotten the brain robots yet from vaping, and I'm very upset about it.
Oh, man.
Like give me the robot worms in my brain, please.
It'll be nice to actually watch Hulu without a vape ad.
I get Tourette's. I just start cursing.
Oh yeah.
Well, it sucks because you can't fast forward it. You don't know how many times I picked up my remote and I'm like, come on.
The mute button helps me all the time.
The mute button.
But yes, I do have to head out. I have to rescue my wife from
Matthew,
a
thank
family
you very
function.
much for sitting with us and chatting
Matthew,
about
it's
this
great to see
monumental
you.
case.
Great to meet you.
Absolutely. It was nice to meet you too. And John, I know this is like the 3rd time you've tried to get me on the show, and I'm finally like, yeah, I can do it. Let's do this again soon. Anytime an update comes up regarding this, please feel free to give me a call.
And he's up on the food post, okay? The food porn's killing me.
I'm going twice as hard now, boy. I'm trying to do a whole pig this summer. I'm trying to do a whole cow this summer. Like, get out of here.
When's dinner?
Every day around 5-6 o'clock.
You're Florida. How do you say it? Floridians.
You're
Floridians.
Floridians. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I hate you
people. My husband's outside barbecuing right now. So
a whole cow, right? A whole cow.
I live in a condo, so.
But all right, guys, thank you for having me on tonight.
Take care, Matthew.
All right, take care.
Bye.
He's gonna try it.
He's looking
How
for
do I
the
get
button.
out?
He's looking for the button. Look at him. He's looking for
There
this
it
button.
is.
Yeah,
There it is.
or just hit the duck. You hit the duck, it'll take you out too. There you go.
Right on. Well, no, this is all fantastic news. We figured you would have just been, living.
I was
your life
so excited that it woke me up, Tim.
I was gonna say, it's like I figured you were just living sleepless nights with excitement. I figured you had somehow figured out how to exist on a 24-hour consistent 24-hour drive.
I always set 2 alarms, so I slept through both. I slept actually through both of them. It wasn't the only one that woke me up is the Nest door button alarm. So my package came and he pushed the button. That's so loud that it woke me up, and I rolled over and I go, "Oh shit, 425! What the hell?"
Well, the funny part was, and I don't want to ramble on about side stories, but I'm like, I don't even have his phone number. So then I'm asking people for what your phone number is. I'm like, oh wait, Bob Sharp is on Facebook. I'll ask Bob, see if Bob has his phone number. So they hang out in real life. So now I have your phone number. Although I found it to be fruitless. It just rang and rang and rang and rang and rang and rang. First time went to voicemail. First one went straight to voicemail. I'm like, he turns his phone off when he sleeps. No, you can't do that. Yeah, no, I think this is all good news for us. So I'm just happy that Matthew, maybe just maybe we need to have Greg Troutman back on the show post overturning of it to kind of like give us the lay of the land of what's coming next. So I did pull a few articles. The reason I wanted Matt on before Greg was because I wanted someone that's been in the trenches, that's actually been doing the PTMAs and in that whole process. Because I think Greg, yes, is kind of is happy, but I think those people are jumping for joy right now. I mean, you think about all that hard work that Matthew has been doing for the last 2 years, trying to get those PMTAs in, and then having to go through all that bullshit where they kept moving, changing it. Oh, we're sorry, but that page wasn't in there. We forgot to add that page, and then that whole process. So I wanted someone that was been through the trenches of it. So that's why Matthew was on. Go ahead, Timmy. What I was
back to Atlanta,
well, what, no,
Georgia.
what
Tim.
I pulled some articles. So I mean, obviously, I think we've kind of gone over this whole entire overturning of the Chevron case with a fine tooth comb. But we did briefly talk a little bit about some of the other things that are following in conjunction with the overturning of this particular ruling. And so I thought maybe I'd take an opportunity to kind of talk more, at least read some of this article regarding the surprise switcheroo. So that's something that's kind of coming in tandem with everything that's just happened. So for those people that might be a little lacking some knowledge on exactly what that conversation was about, maybe we talk about that first. So let me go ahead and bring that one up. I got to find all the right buttons, since that's the only button that's still here that I actually can legitimately use, and that's the present one. So this one right here. This one is from reason.com, and I'll get into the deets here in a second. Let me find my magnifier. I'm already at 150. Oh, by the way, if anybody wants to know this, the Lore coffee machine on the right hand side,
machine.
that's a good machine.
Yep,
It's a good machine. I got me one, and it works very, 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 very well. So if you need some background information, consumer review on the
It's
Lore,
DM Tim.
the Lore, yeah, the Lore barista machine by Phillips, hit me up in my DMs. I'd be happy to fill you in on my my current running review of the Lore barista machine. 19 bar pressure, John. 19 bar pressure.
19. That's pretty good.
19,
It's not bad. It's
bar
not
pressure.
professional level, but it's up there.
John, when you can't afford an $800 espresso making machine, you buy the $150 espresso machine.
Yes, you do.
And as long as it has the crema on top of the coffee, most people are pretty happy. Yeah, once you got the crema, then most people are happy. Anyway, I digress. So the Solicitor General takes vaping to the Supreme Court. Looks like the Supreme Court is just on everybody's wish list lately.
Yeah.
Here's another one. The Department of Justice is asking the Supreme Court to review the Fifth Circuit's rejection of the FDA's surprise switcheroo. So this week, the Office of the Solicitor General filed a petition for certiorari. Did I say that correct? I don't know. I'm sure I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Certiorari in FDA versus Wages and White Line Investments, asking the Supreme Court to review the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit's unbanked decision concluding that the FDA's denial of some vaping product pre-market tobacco applications was arbitrary and capricious. According to the Solicitor General, Supreme Court review of the Fifth Circuit decision is warranted because the court relied upon legal theories that have been rejected by other courts and appeals that have reviewed materially similar FDA denial orders. At one level, the federal government's decision to seek Supreme Court review is what one might expect. There is a circuit split on whether the FDA acted in an arbitrary and capricious fashion when it refused to consider certain materials submitted with PMTAs and departed from previous guidance it had given the industry. Again, with the shifting of the goalposts. So that's pretty much what everybody was being subject to. All these people, good, honest people, spending good, hard-earned, maybe borrowed money to put forth truthful and honest PMTAs given the guidelines that were set forth. And then, as we all know, the FDA just kept shifting those rules and language around to the point where I don't think most people really knew what they were doing, and then got caught getting MDOs effectively because they all of a sudden didn't have what the FDA wanted them to have.
You remember that old commercial? I think it was Allstate, where the guy who had the dollar bill on a fishing pole and he kept reeling it up and you couldn't grab it. That's what it felt like, I bet.
Can I tell a little funny story? I'll pause on this for a minute. But it's funny that you even brought that up. And I almost got caught twice. Twice I almost got caught. But I was wise to the rise, and I figured it out before I even attempted to go for it. I went to the Renaissance Fair back at the end of June, the last weekend that it was open. And we were walking around and if you, the one in Georgia is pretty large. So we were walking around, and I looked down all of a sudden as we were walking, and I saw this half folded dollar bill sitting on the ground. Everybody's just kind of walking around, and so your natural reaction is, oh, there's a dollar bill on the ground. See a penny, pick it up all day long, you'll have a penny. It's a dollar bill. It's not a lot of money. So I looked at it, and then I went, wait a minute. There's rare do you see a dollar bill folded up on the ground. So then I looked up, and there's a guy standing there looking at me out of the corner of his eye, getting ready to pull the fish line and take it away. So then every time I would see him, I would be like, oh, he almost got me again. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. Somebody tried to pull that shit on me.
They were trying to make you. They were trying to make you TikTok famous.
I'm sure there was a cell phone camera on at the time. I just didn't. I didn't look for that. I was looking for the culprit. Most circuits to hear such claims turned them away. The Fifth Circuit, along with the 11th Circuit, did not. CMRRA would thus be warranted to resolve the circuit split and remove any cloud over the FDA's continuing ability to review and deny PMTAs for vaping products. Without Supreme Court review, vaping product manufacturers would have every incentive to seek review of any PMTA denials in the 5th and 11th Circuits, and this could undermine the FDA's regulatory authority. At another level, I suspect that there was some discussion within the Departments of Justice and Health and Human Services as to whether this case provides the best vehicle for Supreme Court review of the FDA's regulation of vaping products. The vaping companies in this case may seem like appealing targets, but the record here includes multiple opinions excoriating. That's I'll have to go to the dictionary for that one. Excoriating. Anyone got a definition on that? Opinions excoriating the FDA's failure to comply with administrative law norms. For this reason, one might have thought the FDA would have preferred to see the Supreme Court create certiorari.
You're having a tough one today. You're having a tough day now.
Look, I failed Latin in high school, so don't expect me to all of a sudden be perfect. Certiorari in a case in which the FDA prevailed below and without a dissenting opinion. Up until this point, it has been my impression that the FDA has been somewhat strategic in deciding which cases to litigate and where. In particular, the agency has been more happy to defend PMTA denials against relatively small, often regional vaping product manufacturers. Yeah, they went after the little guys. I think the ones that we expected to kind of survive the longest ended up being the first ones to go. I mean, just right out of the gate, they didn't even get a fair shot. It was like they just grabbed a piece of paper or grabbed that PMTA and just stamped a rejection on it without even going into the details. While it has strategically avoided going to court against larger players, particularly those with top-notch DC appellate representation. Thus, the FDA voluntarily agreed to reconsider its decision to reject PMTAs from Turning Point and Juul, but went to court against smaller fluid manufacturers of startups. The FDA thus far has also been more willing to approve tobacco-flavored vaping products produced by larger companies, often companies with a long history in the tobacco industry, while rejecting PMTAs from just about everyone else. To date, the agency has yet to approve a vaping product with any flavor profile other than tobacco. Well, that's since changed. Triton Distribution, the name, barely, a couple, right? Triton Distribution, the name of the vaping company owned by W&WL, is a mid-sized vaping fluid manufacturer, but the case is sure to attract attention from other companies fighting to keep their products on the market. Some of the larger players, including companies that also make cigarettes, may be happy to sit on the sidelines, however, or even take the FDA's side, particularly if their own products have made it through the FDA's regulatory gauntlet. Government prohibition of competing products is a surefire way to maintain market share. I think we're almost there.
Yeah.
While the Supreme Court,
circulating to be more formally, to be more fully informed. That is the definition of circulating.
Excoriating.
Yeah, to be more fully informed.
Okay.
There you go.
Abrade or criticize. Okay. So I found a lot of words have kind of like alternative meanings. Asunder can mean kind of counterintuitive definitions.
But how does this turn
divide
into
or
an English
apart.
class?
I don't know.
Yes.
It just seems natural. I'm sure my mom would be happy to be on this episode of the Wednesday Night Live show.
Yeah.
She would absolutely give everybody a vocabulary lesson.
Jim
Well,
would get that much needed star on his refrigerator door.
exactly. Yeah, I need to redeem myself, so I will enter mother next week. No, I'm joking. While the Supreme Court does not grant certiorari all that often, this would seem like a strong candidate. The circuit split and its ongoing effects on the FDA's ability to administer the PMTA approval process makes eventual Supreme Court review inevitable. And if this is the case, the DOJ pushes to tee up this issue. This is likely the case the court will accept. So I believe they did accept this, right? They will hear this case.
Yep.
I think I heard that.
Yes, sir.
All right. So this article's back from March 22nd of this year. So this was all predating the Chevron case. This all predated everything that where we're sitting right now. So yeah, I think we're entering in a very interesting time, one where our ears should all be perked up and seeing what's going to come next.
Yeah, a lot's going to change. I mean, just you think about it. I mean, even like in our situation with YouTube, that changes. Everything just is going to change if it goes our way. I mean, how YouTube regulates the, these reviews, all this stuff there's so much that's going to change. It's insane.
Do you think we're going to see a lot of people who full stop left, moved on to other things? Do you think we'll see those people come back, or do you think we'll see a wave of new faces?
I think a little bit of them, because I think, being that I did photos for a lot of e-liquid companies that vanished when this all started, I mean, a lot of those companies went into hemp. So I don't know. I think they're doing pretty damn well in that industry. So I don't know, might be a few of them that come back. I'm worried about is, like I said with Matthew, is no beef on DIY people, but I don't want to see and I hate using the term bathtub juice, but I really don't want to see that come back. I really don't want to see people not licensed, not gone through the process that everyone else has been fighting for the last 8 years, just all of a sudden just show back up and be on Facebook selling e-liquid, selling it on Instagram, selling it on TikTok. That I don't want to see.
Well, I mean, let's be realistic here. I don't think just because these opportunities present themselves that we're going to see an onslaught of people sort of just kind of brashingly treat it differently. I think the social media platforms, I think they're still going to have probably some of the same kind of, controls over that. I mean, they don't really have the same kind of argument. Now, I mean, that's assuming we go back to a point where we roll far back enough where the PMTA first rounds are a wash, everything goes back on the market. Still doesn't mean at that point anything is technically legal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like what we were all wrestling with. It's like, wait a minute, we got all this stuff out here in the vaping sphere. I mean, we got mod after mod after mod after AIO after AIO and liquid brand after liquid brand, and then they go and they say, well, it's technically not legal. And you're like wrestling with your brain. It's like, well, if it isn't legal, then why am I able to get it? It doesn't, just because it's not FDA approved. But I mean, going back to the original point, I think that the social media platforms will probably still trudge forward with similar language in their terms and conditions.
Yeah. And nothing like, hey, DIYers, knock yourselves out. I think it's great. For me, my concern is this could set a precedent where we get looked into a little bit more again, with someone maybe getting sick, due to, someone selling, e-liquid through Instagram or Facebook and stuff like that, where, all of a sudden they're looking at us again. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I think there's some DIYers that are doing it the right way, probably have a pretty good clean room and all this other stuff, and have been making it themselves. Now all of a sudden think they can, fill orders, and it changes. It changes when you're making for yourself compared to you now making it for, say, 150 customers. That changes your process. You're not a lab. You're not someone that can control your environment. So for me, for a while, I hope people kind of stay away from that. And that's why I was kind of concerned about how the price structure may change due to all this with the actual legitimate manufacturers. Do we go back to 2009 prices, where we're paying $22 for 15 mils of juice, or are we going to be at 2012 prices where everything kind of started to come back down to earth, where you could get a bottle of 120 mil of e-liquid for right around $25?
Well, I think wouldn't that rely on supply and demand, right? I mean, obviously companies that were selling, nicotine before and flavorings and all that other stuff, I'm confident you can still get it to this day. But didn't we kind of go into a bit of a nicotine constraint? I mean, it seemed like people were having a harder time getting this. I think one of my other questions to both of you is, do you think we'll see an onslaught or an uptick in the reopening or establishing of vape shops in droves? Do you think you're going to see people rush back to the investment angle and set up shop again, kind of hoping and praying that it doesn't happen a second time around? I mean, they already put their whole entire life into the first venture.
Yeah.
For here in Florida, they didn't go away. So I mean, they don't stock the big mods and things like that like they used to, but you can shop around and find something that works for, an open system. But I think the ones that have to end up selling differently, taking the disposables out if they end up going away, or, things of that nature, they're going to have to reconsider how they do business in order to stay open. That's where I think Florida's going to have a big change.
Yeah.
How do you think we temper people's attitudes, right? Because if this does go back, right, and it affects the PACT Act and a lot of the effects that were imposed upon us with adult signature fees and all these other things, and the online market has an opportunity to reinvent itself and become a lot stronger. How do we temper the feud that typically exists between the local vape shop and the online market, and get people to kind of play nice with each other? Because you'll always have that argument. I think it's people can get it cheaper online, or they order it online rather than walking into the vape shop, because vape shop has to consider overhead in their pricing.
If you're asking me, it's Florida's kind of weird though. I mean, we have a lot of younger vapors, but we also have a lot of older vapors. And I think for the older people, they're going to welcome the around the corner vape shop, because they don't like going online. They don't trust people online because they haven't been doing it long enough,
and they want the help too that you're going to get.
Right. And they're interested in having vape shops come back with the people who actually know what they're doing, because now it's all,
Can you imagine being able to walk back into a vape shop and actually having the vape shop change your coil for you? Oh my God. Because
nowadays, they won't even touch them,
So. Because that's the problem that the older generation was having. They're like,
exactly.
I like this technology, is working for me, but I don't understand this process, changing a coil, priming it, doing all this other stuff, and being able now to actually walk into that vape shop and have them change your coil for you. And that only not helps that individual, but also helps the shop now, because now the shop's selling coils. He's putting in coils for the customers, doing all that stuff. And eventually, like myself, you're going to go, what is this, making coils? Because that happened to me. And I can imagine it happens to millions of other people. Like, wait a minute, I don't have to spend this much money every month to buy coils. I can buy a spool of wire for $5, 100 feet of wire, and make coils from now until the day I friggin' die from that spool. I mean, that was for me. Because
most of the older people that I know that are vaping, they have a friend or a relative who is willing to help them out. Because there's so many vapors here, and somebody around them knows how to do that kind of work.
And it's a whole different vape. It's a whole different world when you switch over, man. It's like, all I got to do is dry burn this off, take the cotton off, put a new piece of cotton in there, and I'm done. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, but these people can't do it on their own.
No,
I mean,
no, they
they
cannot.
can't see it, they can't hold it, they can't,
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
understand it. And
Yeah.
then they're afraid of it when they get finished with it to even puff on it, because they don't know that they've done it right.
It will
Well,
reduce the sales of the disposable vapes. I think going back and having, and because we were at that point where the open systems, the smaller ones, I don't know what they're called, but the little ones that kind of look like the Jewel, the innovation was getting really freaking good before everything, the shit hit the fan, and the disposables kind of took over the market. I think if they come back with a really good open system that is designed around the same functionality as one of these, I think that changes everything. That changes the disposable market is going to be gone, because now the guy's going to be going, wait a minute, I don't have to vape whatever flavor this is for a whole 3 weeks before it's gone. I can get this device and say tomorrow morning I want to switch it with something strawberry, and then the next day switch it with something else. I think that changes the whole playing field.
I hope the flavored pods come back for the older people that I know, because that would give them the variety. And what they're doing now is they're going and they're buying the illegal stuff, which to them looks right and tastes right, from what they're used to. And but they're buying 3 or 4 different types, flavors, so that they can change out then, and that works. But if they get rid of all that, at least the flavored pods would make it a pop and go thing, They could still get their flavors, hopefully.
Yeah, Rifleman. I mean, when I got into it, I was lucky because I can't remember the name of the shop, but I used to get my stuff from this other shop that mixed in house. All the flavors were mixed in house. But then this other shop opened up, and that's how I got into building coils. First, of course, Rip Trippers and some of those guys. I was kind of watching those videos, but they had a class every Sunday in the shop, right in the middle of the shop. They put out these folding tables, and they told everybody, you just need to bring a drill and a few tools, and they sat there for hours making coils, teaching people how to make coils. And that'd be just and it was like, when I walked in there, I was like, this is crazy. This is not crazy, but this is freaking awesome, because does it hurt the vape shop? Sure it does, because you're not buying coils from them anymore. But to them, it was the fact that these people aren't smoking cigarettes. And that's how I looked at it. This vape shop, they're losing money because they're teaching people how to make coils, but yet they're keeping people off of cigarettes. And I think that to them is more important than selling that 5-pack of coils, every so often. So I would love that, be able to all that to come back and just have that community feeling again that we all had walking into a vape shop. And I know Tim has spoken about it, and I did too. Yeah, I was a little freaked out that first time I went in there. I felt like I was the old guy in the shop, and I felt out of place. And because at that time you could vape at 18. So when I walked into that vape shop, there was a lot of 18-year-olds in there, 18, 19. And I did, the funny story is I had cash in my hand, and they had a vape bar. There was just a huge bar that you can taste and sample all the stuff they had. And here I am holding my money, trying to buy e-liquid from you guys, and I was having a hard time. I was getting a little frustrated. I was like, hey, I'm standing here with cash in my hands. Can I please get a bottle of juice? I don't need to sample anything. This is what I want. And, it was a very weird experience at first. Wasn't it for you, Tim?
Yeah.
I think you've talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I never had an affinity to the places before. And I think part of that was the fact that around the time I kind of understood a little bit more about the concept of the vape shop and the tasting bars and all that stuff. It wasn't long after I kind of was in the place to start considering going there, because very early on, I mean, my journey was kind of a quick ramp up. I started, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to get in all that, because that just seems like too much work. And then before you know it, I'm rolling coils. I'm not going to do. So when the tasting bar thing was an actual thing, by the time I actually was like, yeah, maybe that would be a good way for me to find good flavor profiles that I like, because I really don't know what I'm looking for. I'm buying
Yeah.
all this stuff
Right.
online, and it's a crapshoot. I'm watching 100 YouTube videos, and everybody is saying wonderful things about all these juices, and then I would get half of them, and I couldn't stand them. They tasted like crap, or they didn't have any flavor, or I couldn't find the notes that they described. So I thought, you know what, this will be the next logical thing. Go to a vape shop, go to the tasting bar, and try a bunch in real time, and then find something I like, buy that, and take it home. But by then, the tasting bars were getting phased out. They were
Yeah.
making it more difficult in the vape shops for them to have them, because they then they were charging for tastes. They were like, oh, $1
A
for
dollar,
this or
yeah.
$1 for that. So I just never had an affinity for the vape shop. And then when I finally did go into one later on down the line, I just felt out of place. I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I was in a place. I wouldn't say I wasn't welcome, but it felt very cliquey. It felt
Yeah.
like everybody in there kind of was already they knew each other, and they kind of gravitated and hung in their little clique. And you didn't feel like when you walked in, you didn't get the guy behind the counter like, hey, welcome to the shop.
Yeah.
Hey, can I
Yeah.
help you? Look for something specific. Can I, whatever, suggestions, recommendation. Yeah, that's not the welcome I got when I walked in. It was like you walked in and 10 people turn around and stare at you like
Yeah.
you're a naked guy that just walked into a saloon. You know what I mean?
Does that guy work for the FDA?
Yeah, like, look, what's up with the cousin
Yeah.
it in the corner over there?
Cousin it.
Yeah, like,
I mean,
yeah, what's up?
Tim, you were like me. You were just like, where's the buy now button? Where's the
has
buy
this
now?
guy-
You walked in,
yeah.
it's like, where's that buy now button? I just want to
Has
buy
this
it
guy
now. and
figured
get
out that 1980 was like 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, grow up, get a haircut, get a real job. Here's a flat bill cap. Look like us. No, that's just kind of the aura that presented itself. So I don't know. They're just not the place that was for me. I don't know.
Yes,
I
the
lived
mango
online.
pods come back, baby. Come back, mango pods.
So more questions then. So I mean, of course, we're all throwing assumptions at the wall here, right? These are,
Yeah.
I don't want to call it wishful thinking. We don't know what the outcome of all of
Right.
this is going to be. So given the nature of rolling things back, do you think that this will have something to do with the messaging that's out there from both sides? Will the horrendous misinformation they push to scare people away from vaping, do you think we'll see them be curbed in that kind of marketing campaigns that the government likes to put on? And B, does this mean that the vape shops will then once again be able to make statements to the contrary, not specifically say, oh, it's 100% healthy, it's going to cure your cancer, outlandish stuff? But if the deeming regs do get abolished, that basically opens the door, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they say that once you get conditioned, it's like a habit. And once you get conditioned to hear it for so long, it takes 20 years for your actual consensus to change, the public's consensus.
Yeah.
So we're looking at least 20 years before we get back to where I think people were before all this.
Yeah.
Back to actually believing that vaping is better. And that's a sad reality, because I don't like that any more than anybody else does. But
Well, right.
20 years is what they say.
I feel like that was an unfair playing field. I mean, I can understand that they may have wanted to set some guidelines by which we couldn't, the vapor industries, the shop owners, the counter workers, the people that are there customer facing. That doesn't preclude, the average vapor, the neighbor, to go over and say whatever he feels in his heart to someone you're helping, trying to get off smoking. But I think it was a bit of an unfair playing field in the sense that it was like, well, we're the government, and we're, these marketing campaigns, and we have carte blanche to say basically whatever we want, true or not, to scare the living crap out of you. But at the same time, you're not allowed to say anything. You're on like a permanent gag order over there. and you're just gonna have to sit by and take what we have to give you. I sort of feel like, to make things fair, should have never been that way to begin with.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that word that I think saying this is healthier is going to be something I think even a lot of vape shops are going to try to avoid for a while. I think even if everything goes our way, I don't think I personally don't think it'd probably be a good idea for us to make that sort of a bold statement where this is even saying it's 99.9% safer than smoking. I think that's going to be something I think they should actually stay away from saying that. Hey, hey, this is a safer alternative. I think is better than saying this is 99% healthier than smoking. Cause I don't know if we're like Michelle said, I don't think that's something we're going to be able to say for at least another 20 years. Of studies.
I just hope the medical studies and all get out there. The doctors learn this,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do agree with the both of you in the sense that I think that, but there has to be some acceptable language that can be shared that, that they're willing to tolerate, even if it's as simplistic as just a basic statement. It doesn't have to be worded with a bunch of percentages and factors and all kinds of numerical information. I mean, as long as the general endorsement is there that it is in fact less dangerous or safer than smoking, that's a good start.
Yeah, saying if it's safer than smoking, less dangerous, I think those are terms that I think we could get away. Less harmful too is on there, but I think for us being just to boldly say, this is, going to take away your cancer, or this is, 99.9%. I don't think we're going to be able to say that for quite a while. And I don't think we're going to be able to say that until we can actually have studies that say in 20 years that say this has truly been a THR product. And I think until we get that THR approval, and I don't think that's coming from the FDA or anywhere else. I think that's just going to be from studies coming in the next, which I hope to God continues, because I think for not just for us, our sake, but future vapors, having the sense of knowing, yes, this product has been safer and has been working as a THR product. I think those studies need to continue. I think people need to get chest x-rays. I think people need to go to doctors and get physicals and show, hey, I'm fucking 100% healthier than I was when I was smoking before I was, where I was smoking 2 packs a day. Until that happens, I think it'd be in our best interest to use terms like less harmful, safer. Somewhat safer.
There's nothing stopping it. Well, although there's nothing stopping us. I mean, even if the language is simplified to something as concise as that, I mean, there's nothing that's stopping people from going to the other side and say, well, this is less harmful. So let's talk about the thing that is more harmful. Did you know that X number of people die from smoking every year? Did you know that X number of people die from secondhand smoking every year? Did you know that there's 4,000 chemicals in a cigarette that are carcinogenic, right? There's all kinds of things that we could do to demonize the thing that we're trying to get people away from. Doesn't mean that we have to wholly endorse vaping with some fancy, scientific language. I mean, as long as we can point them and say, well, I'm not just telling you it's safer. Here's an official public statement that's telling you right here it's safer. So if you don't believe me and you're more inclined to believe them, well, then there you go.
I just argued with a doctor this afternoon. I gave her all kinds of proof, all the statements, all the science studies, and she just she would not hear it. It was like, nope, it's bad. It's bad. It's killing kids, and it's like, what?
Where are they?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We've had THR. We consider it THR, but what we're talking about, what Michelle was stated earlier, is it's not us. It's the general public we have to convince. and
Right.
that this is an actual THR product and this is safer, because it's not the guy that's been vaping for 20 years or 12 years that's going into vape. He doesn't need convincing. It's the general public that we need to convince, because, you know, they're the ones that are going to, I'm sorry, they're going to be the ones that are going to constantly be fighting us from now until the end of times. I mean, even if this all goes our way, there's still good. PAVE is still going to be out there. Truth Initiative is still going to be out there. Those people aren't going anywhere, and they're going to keep feeding the general public this nonsense. And those are the ones we need to convince that this is an actual product. Because when we do that, then you get that naysayer to say, "Hey, uncle, you know, you're smoking 20, this is safer, try this out." And, you know, that's what we need. We need to get those people to look at this product as THR, safer than smoking, and get those family members that are still smoking to come and try vaping, or step into a vape shop. God forbid, even go into a convenience store and buy a vape. Dude, just try it.
You know, I was at shopping this week, and a funny story, but it's true. I was helping a customer who, walking into the store, I saw smoking a cigarette, and his wife walked in first, and he stayed out and finished smoking a cigarette. And I was tempted to go over to him, but I thought it's too hot out here. You know, he's not. I'm not going to have his attention for long enough to do any good.
Yeah.
So we ran into one another, just feet inside the door, and I said, "I saw you smoking out there," you know, now that I was cool. And we started talking, and I was telling him about vaping, and he was really interested. He wanted to quit. He had tried vaping before, long story. But another woman and her young child, who was maybe 12 or so, was listening to me. Kind of, you could see them, you know, out of the corner of their eyes. The mom's giving me this look. And the mother saying, or the girl saying, "See, Mom, I told you it wasn't that bad."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh no, this lady's going to get mad at me.
Yeah. She's going to take her shoe off.
Yeah. Shut up, woman, you know?
Yeah.
But the guy kept coming back with answers, and he promised me he was going to go back and go that day, because his wife was really on his nerves about quitting. And so, you know, anyway, he was going to go get a vape that afternoon. And I heard the mom say, "Well, we'll talk about it later, but you're still too young." And I said, "Yes, you are too young," to her, when she turned around and looked at me, you know. And she kind of, you know, got upset, but it was a good conversation for the woman to hear as well, you know.
I think it helps too, our industry, and this is one of the things that I'm really proud of, is having so many more women being representing this industry. And I think it's important. It's not that the guy can't get the message across. I think it comes different when it's a female explaining and going through that, because every female is a potential mother. So mothers want what's good for their children, and they're not going to try to sell you something that's bad. So that's why I've been trying to put a damn show together with all the women that are in this industry, and that, you know, but it's been hard. It's been hard, damn it. But I think it is. I think it's important that we have more female representation in this industry. And I think it's, like I said, I think when you guys speak about vaping, I think more people are more likely to listen. You know,
well, I think you're right there. I think it's more of the guys, you know, well, it's cool. You know, it's one of those things where a woman talks, and you maybe do stop and think about it a little bit more, because a woman is typically the one who thinks things through more, you know. They don't just do it for the hell of it being cool, you know, necessarily, you know. So I think you're right. I agree with you.
I do think the guys are, I think our approach is maybe a little bit different than the way it's like, oh no, you know, we got to go into the flavors and all this other stuff, where I think you guys get more into the science part of it. And again, when a woman is speaking, you all, I mean, I hate saying it, but you know, you're almost a mother figure to whoever you're speaking to, because that's just how you're looked upon, you know. And I think it just sends a different message. And I'm just glad that we have some more women in higher roles in this industry to send that message out there, you know. So good for you women. us guys, we just, you know, that's for a different show. Tim, we
Well,
can't hear you, but I'm sure it was great,
You
whatever you
guys
were
reach
saying.
people that women can't.
Yeah.
You know, let's
Yeah.
face it. You guys take it to the pool hall, and you shoot pool with, you shoot golf with people, and places that you don't typically see women. You know, so
Yeah.
we all have our ways to get through to people.
It's not a it's not a gender issue, but you know, when a woman's talking to me, I'm listening. It's just, maybe it's just the way I was raised, but when
I
a
was
woman
gonna
is
say your
speaking to me,
mom.
yeah, and not just that, you know, there's other factors why I'm listening, but it's just, you listen. And when a guy's talking to you, you get that, I'm Tim, am I right? You get that, oh man, whatever, dude. Come on, man. You know, you're not going to get, come on, dude, whatever. When a woman is speaking to you about, you know, your health, you're more than likely going to pay attention to her and what she has to say. Where the guy is going to be like, dude, come on, man. That shit's
Walk
bad
it
for you.
off. Walk it off.
Be a man. Grab a cigarette.
Be fine.
You know?
Okay. No pain, no gain, dude. Come on.
No pain, no gain. Rub some dirt on it, man. You'll be all right.
Exactly. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's nothing, dude. Don't listen to her.
Doctors
No,
don't know shit.
Us guys can tend to be a bit of a bunch of blowhards at times.
Yeah,
And
we get
I think we
that
know
macho.
too much.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we don't need to vape explain anything to anyone.
Yeah.
What are we thinking?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We just set ourselves back like 50 years. Oh,
well, we did run over a little bit tonight, John. So we started late. It's
oh, that's right.
We're past our time. Got to not watch the clock on the screen.
Well, yeah, because the clock on my screen says an hour and 50 minutes. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? And then I look down at 6:06. Oh.
we held out for you, but we got her done. We got her done. That's what we
get
do
her
here
done.
on Wednesday Night
Get her
Live.
done.
And you're gonna have to tell me for the next time this happens, where's the intro to the show?
Oh, if you click on brands,
I did, and I looked
and
in
you scroll
videos
down,
and it wasn't there.
And it should be the first one. It should be video clips, and it should be. Oh, you don't. Maybe you should be seeing those. Like,
I don't think I have that.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Okay. Well, I tried all four that I could see. So.
Oh, okay. Did you click on the one that? Now you got to go up to the top, the very top, and it should say Wednesday Night Live show up there. What does it say right now? On yours.
Hold on, I'll get there in a second. Hold on, let me get down to the
you might have been on the wrong
well, that's funny. There's a lot more there now than there were when we got started. So I think it has something to do with you logging in. So
right, when I logged in, I made sure I switched it to, because there's the Bob and John Sports Hour, there's a Friday Night BS show, so the Bob and John trivia contest, there's a bunch of them in there.
It's all good.
A matter of fact, I was since we were like on I think we have some. Who do we have coming on the 10th? Skip.
We have Skip. Yeah, Skip Murray will be on the show.
John, yeah, maybe the following week after that.
Yeah,
we can introduce Michelle to trivia night. Night, Michelle.
We haven't had a good trivia night in a while. So yeah, maybe we can figure that one out. Yep, I like the idea of it. But yeah, it was a good show. Thanks
for prepared, Michelle. Maybe we can convince our lovely Allison to join us on trivia night having guys versus gals.
Yeah, maybe she needs a good trivia night.
She needs a good trivia. Grab your margarita, Allison, and get a pitcher. Grab a pitcher of margaritas and prepare yourself for trivia night. Absolutely. All right, Tim, since you opened the show, you close the show, and I will hit the outro button when you're finished.
Absolutely. Well, I first of all just want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and sorry we weren't with you for the last couple of weeks. We had some stuff going on, but we're always around. Apples don't fall far from the tree. So we're back, and we want to thank Matthew for being on the show tonight and offering his insight into everything that's going on. Good news for everybody, hopefully. So we'll keep the positive vibes going. And like John said, next week on the show, we got Skip Murray, the wonderful Skip Murray, and her jar of peanut butter will be here. And we'll have a good time with Skip. So, Michelle, thank you very much for being on the show tonight with us. And we'll see you again next week. John, thanks for waking up there, brother. Thanks.
Yeah, Tim was dreading it. He was like, "Oh shit, hope Michelle comes on. I can't do this by myself."
I'm like, I'm just gonna click some buttons and we'll make it happen. So, everybody, take a look at the camera. Take a look at the camera. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.